Hi, I'm Carolyn Priester-Jones. Welcome back to the Garden of Eden. You know, where we left off last time was really kind of a cliffhanger. Adam and Eve had disobeyed God. There was no going back, there was no fixing it, and God knew exactly what they had done. And where we left off, God was there to talk about it. Now, you know, we can be thrown into a panic by a parent, by a boss, by somebody who wants to sit down with us and simply says, we need to talk. We need to talk about what you did. Now, why is that? Why do we go into kind of a panic? Well, usually because we're afraid of what might come next. When we have known something about the person, the authority figure from the past, from the way they've acted in the past, or we've heard something about them, or we've even imagined something about them, then it's very easy for us to go immediately to fear. Now, Satan knows that principle also. He knows that how we feel about the authority figure we're talking to has a lot to do with whether we're going to be free to talk to them. And in this case, he doesn't want us to talk to God. So this is one place Satan is ready to throw the ball to. Hey, remember how powerful God is. Remember, you're no match for God. He's very content with us thinking that. However, it's very crucial to Satan's strategy for us to follow up by thinking, oh, I am afraid. I don't want to talk to him. So most of the places in the Bible that are translated as the fear of the Lord, Satan just loves. But we could actually translate another way, that being the awe or the reverence of the Lord. Now let's look at what Paul tells us. In Hebrews 4:16, Paul says, therefore, come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Now listen to that. Come boldly, not run away, but come boldly to the throne of grace. And why are we going to do that? We're going to do that to find mercy. Now, if we come boldly, then we can be assured that we are going to be safe with God. Now, is God really out to get us? That's what Satan wants us to believe. That's what his press releases say. But is that really true? Well, David, who was called a man after God's own heart, probably summed it up the best in Psalm 103:8. And David said, the Lord is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love. Now, does that sound like somebody that you can talk to? Well, as we mentioned before, God could have done anything he wanted to Adam and Eve and Satan. He could have tortured them, and then he could have just eliminated them. Certainly he had the power to do that. But you know what God said about himself? In another part of the Bible, God spoke clearly, and I love the God's Word translation. In Ezekiel 18:23, I don't want evil people to die, declares the Almighty Lord. I want them to turn from their evil ways and live. Now that's what God himself said. Well, Adam and Eve had definitely made a wrong turn toward death. So what did God want for them? He wanted them to turn around, go another way, and go toward life. And he wanted them to learn more about what life really is. God had a rehabilitation plan, not only for Adam and Eve, but also for Satan. Let's look at how creatively God dealt with each one of them. Now note, the way Satan has always spun this story is that God was just so mean. He threw them all out of the garden for just a wrong food choice. And then he brought on pain and misery, and he refused to provide for them. And he was just so mean. Now that's the gospel according to Satan. But of course, that's not the real story. We know that Jesus said Satan is the father of lies. So we know not to believe the gospel according to Satan. Let's look at the real gospel that talks about God's love. Let's go back to when Satan was created. God created Satan to be beautiful. And unfortunately, Satan came to focus on that. I'm sure every time he passed a mirror, he looked at himself and thought, wow, I am beautiful, instead of thinking, praise to the Lord who made me this way. Satan simply became stuck on himself. Now, no doubt, Satan loved the thought that these humans were created lower than he was. What? Did you catch that in the story of Adam and Eve? Well, remember, Satan was created as an angel. In Hebrews 2, 7 through 8, Paul quotes David, who says, "You made them," that is mankind, "a little lower than the angels. You crowned them with glory and honor, and you put everything under their feet." And in Hebrews 2:8, Paul adds, in putting everything under them, God left nothing that is not subject to them. Now Satan would say, hold on a minute, nothing but me. I'm an angel, and I'm definitely not under their feet. But the story in Satan's mind even was about to change. After God talked with Adam and Eve about their disobedience, God called Satan forward and issued a new proclamation. I suspect that his voice was heard all the way through heaven and earth because God wanted everyone to know that it was going to be a new day on earth. His proclamation restated the bounds of authority. Satan would be getting an up-close and personal look at the dust from which God had created his precious humans. Satan was going to get to see that every day. His belly would unwantedly caress the dust of the earth every time he moved. And so far as being under the feet of the humans, well, that was so too. The humans would be standing, and Satan would be crawling. Not only that, but God fixed it where Adam and Eve wouldn't even talk to him anymore. He made them enemies. Adam and Eve, when they now saw Satan in his new form, knew for certain this was the enemy, and they were not going close except to crush him. And oh, it got even better. Satan would no longer have any standing, that's a pun intended, with the animals, with the other creatures in the garden. He would be the lowest of the low, and all the rest of them would look down on him. And so, in just a second, it was done. Satan felt the wind whizzing past him as he was going down, down, down. Now, I'm sure Satan tried to mount some sort of defense. He tried to say this whole thing was God's fault. It was his fault, Satan wanted to say, but somehow he only got stuck on his. So that when he said his, it came out as hiss. And that's all he could get out. Well, was there a way that Satan could ever get off the ground? Yes, there was. But it was a way that he was not likely to choose. In James 4:10, James says, "Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will lift you up." Humility before God, let Him lift you up. Well, even in His new form, humility, especially humility before God, was not a way that Satan was likely to choose. Now, Adam and Eve saw all that God had done to Satan, and I'm sure they were standing there thinking, "Ooh, what's next? What is he going to do to us?" Well, we gave you a hint in our last video. We actually told you what he did. God's plan for rehabilitation for Adam and Eve was he made them junior partners in the family business of life. And so next time when we get together, we will talk about how creatively God brought that about. If you would like more information about this video series, about my books, my tweets, my blog, then please explore our website at www.christianreading.com/cjones. And of course, it would be great if you would like to subscribe to this video series, then you won't miss any part of it. Thank you very much. I'm Carolyn Priester Jones, and I look forward to seeing you next time.